on, can we give it up for the Lightning Band as they get off the stage today? How awesome. Thank you, guys. If some of you were wondering, like, why is Josh being a creeper in the corner? Why did he get off the stage at one point? Well, the strap on my guitar broke, so I was left up there inept. So I made the decision to just step off stage. But man, the team today, thank you for your heart. Thank you for leading us in worship today. Such an awesome thing. So we're just so thankful that we got some worshipers in the house in this place. But we got a brand new series. I'm so excited to unpack this. It's called Beautiful Feet. Everybody say Beautiful Feet. Never thought you'd say that in church, but it's so cool. I love the opportunity to talk about what it looks like for Christians to, may I say it this way, actually be Christians. Like, I love the opportunity to speak into our house, to speak into the heart of our church, because here's the thing. Christ wants us to share this gospel. Christ wants us to talk about what he has done in our lives. He does not want us to zip it and then throw out the key. No, he wants us to do something with what he has done in our lives. And so, Beautiful Feet, over the next 3 weeks, we're just going to talk about, hey, what does it look like for us to be a Christian? What does it look like for us to share this love, this grace, this hope that we have? But also, give me the tangibles, Pastor Josh. Give me the ways that I can actually put this into practice and be able to do it. And so some of you, this might be an actual news flash. Some of you, this might be a reminder. For some of you, this might be an annoyingly harsh reminder for you that Christ has called you out of the darkness to be a light. That he has pulled you out of the darkness to not just seclude you and hide you. He has removed you from the darkness so that you could be seen. So that your life, mistakes, flaws, and all can be used for his glory to be able to do a work. And so we're going to be talking throughout this series about a bunch of different things throughout the scriptures. But I want to talk about Paul for a second. So Paul, he used to be called Saul. He had an encounter with Jesus, and it was this holy moment where he met Jesus. And it says in the scriptures that literally he was like, as soon as he saw the glory of Jesus, like straight up wasn't able to see anymore. Like it was just this moment. So everything that Paul was doing up until this point was the opposite of what Jesus would like for him to do. He was a man that was religious in every capacity, that he lived by the book of the law, that he was a really, really good follower of God. Follower of religion. He was really good at it. He was smart. It's not like he didn't know. Like he knew everything. He did everything. He was very, very smart. But it was when Jesus started coming on the scene and there's followers of the way and followers that are following after Jesus, Paul looks at them and he goes, this ain't right. And it says in the scriptures that every breath that he had, he would be uttering threats against the kingdom of Jesus and what he was doing. He was so frustrated and angry and felt like this was just an abolishment, awful thing against God himself. So he literally would go into towns and he would murder Christians. That he gave the okay to be able to take Christians in chains and take them out of their cities and bring them back in bondage. And he just really believed that this was okay to do because of his religion. But then he met Jesus. Not just the idea of Jesus, not just what people had told him about Jesus. No, he had an encounter with the Most High. He had an encounter with Jesus himself and his life. It was undeniable. Nobody could take it away from him. Nobody could try to persuade. Nobody could try to convince him that it was wrong. It was something that dramatically changed his life to the point where his world shifted in such a way that everyone was like, you were on this team. And now you're on this team. Like, this is crazy. It's like seeing James Harrison when he played for the New England Patriots. It was like, why are you doing this to us? Why would you ever do that to me? You know what I mean? And so whatever. And so this was such an awesome encounter. And so Paul, the title of my message today, by the way, is If You Don't, Who Will? If you don't, who will? And so Paul is talking, and he starts writing to this church in Rome, literally the church in Rome, and it's found in Romans 10. And he starts writing to them, and he's writing a whole bunch of different things. But at this point in time, he's writing a scripture. He's writing the scriptures, but he's writing a letter to Rome, and he's expressing to them that, hey, you guys have been followers of religion, and you've been really good at it too, the same way that I was. And so in Romans 10, it describes Paul's heartfelt prayer towards his own people. Prayers that Israel would be saved despite Israel's commitment to saving herself through works. That he says that I have this desperate plea and desperate prayer that my people would not think that earning this thing with God would be the thing that gets us saved. That he starts explicitly sharing this. And he goes on, and he's talking about his story. Like, he's talking about his story because he really believed up till that point, until he met Jesus, that what he was doing is what was setting him free. That is the thing that was giving him salvation, was doing and doing and doing what God had said to do over and over and over again. And so the people of Israel at this point in time are just like, we're good. They were good. We're all right. We know that God's got our back. We know that God will take care of us. We know that if we do this, do this, do that, do this, then God will take care of us. We're okay, Paul. This is their place. And this is where Paul found himself before as well. That just like, if I do this, then I'm good. And how many of us have found ourselves like this as well? In our religious attempts, our feeble attempts to feel closer to God, where we just felt like if I do this, this, and this, and this, and this, and then if I maybe adhere to this and stop doing that and act this, then I will feel pretty complete. Then I will feel like we are good and we are on the same team. But the truth is today, that I need you to hear today, and this is going to throw off for just a brief second, it's going to throw off some of your theology and all this different stuff, but there's only two ways. There's only two ways that somebody can achieve salvation today. Some of you are like, wait, I'm confused. There's only two ways. The first way is Jesus stepping in your place. What he has done upon the cross. Everything, his finished works of the cross, is enough for you to be able to achieve and earn salvation through what he has done. The second way is this: be perfect. Be perfect. And a lot of us, for some reason, think that it's easier to try to be perfect. Isn't it kind of messed up today? That it's like, it's the free gift of grace, taking it, saying, all right, it's on Jesus. He handled it for me. We're like, nah, I got this. And it's like, no, you don't. You think that you can do this thing on your own? You think that you can go out and earn this thing by yourself? No. That's not what this looks like today. It says, be perfect. And the thing is like, man, if you think that you can really be perfect, you're an idiot. You can't do it. As much as we try, have you ever actually tried to just not be to actually be perfect? It's like, man, it is impossible. Like, it is impossible. I don't care how great you are. I don't care how many cuss words you have not said. I don't care how you've acted and how you've been. It is impossible to actually be perfect. And so that means that you need this. There's no more saying, I'm good. I got this. I can do this by myself. And so this is what Paul is saying to his people. Is like, if you do not accept Jesus, there's no other way. You're waiting on something. You're putting your hope in what God has promised you. And I have the promise. I'm literally holding the promise that is here. And believe me, I was just like you. Believe me, I didn't think that this was the actual promise that came from God himself, but he was. He was God in the flesh, that he was who he said he was. And so my whole life has looked dramatically different because he is who he says that he is. And so you're waiting on something, and I'm telling you, this is it. And they couldn't accept it. But Paul still didn't shut up. Paul said, even though some of my fellow believers, the way that I was, even though they're not jumping ship with me and they're joining the right team, that doesn't mean that I'm just going to go, okay, I respect you. I respect your ways, your thoughts. No. He said, no. What I have is too crucial for me to shut up. What I know and what I've experienced, it is too much of a big deal for me to keep my mouth shut. I have to share this gospel. I have to talk about what God is doing. And so if you don't say it, who will? Paul says throughout the scriptures, if you don't, who will? If I don't, who would? If I don't speak up, who else is going to speak up? God has called you at such a time as this to be one that would speak up, to be one that would not hold a voice in. And now catch me with this. Like, I'm not saying that you become this crazy radical Christian and all you're saying is verbiage that just makes people feel down, that makes people feel like what you have and they don't have, that they're less than because of that. No. This is hope. This is joy unspeakable. This is like the greatest thing that has ever happened to me. So why would me, in my joy, in my encounters with the Most High God, why would I go to others and make them feel condemned and ashamed and less than because they haven't said yes yet? Some of us need to start looking at those around us as they have not said yes yet. Because I believe that God's doing a work. I believe that God is up to something. I believe that God wants to do a work in the people that are around us. But if you don't, who will? If you don't speak, who else will speak? If you don't share, who else will share in your place? And so you have all these people that just think that they're right, that they're good. We're good with God. What he promised us is enough. And he says, no, the promise is here. What I have given you is here. The promise of salvation has come, and his name is Jesus. His name is Jesus. And so it goes on, and Paul references, this amazing scripture that is found in the Old Testament, and it's the whole basis of our series here. And so he's sharing in his letter to Rome, he's just talking to that group of people that think that they're all good. That I don't need salvation, that I don't need anything like that, because what God has promised me is enough. What God has said is enough. And it's like, no, the promise is Jesus. You're hoping for something to come that's already here. It's already been taken care of. It's like, oh no, like I just got to do this, and I got to adhere to this, and I got to stop doing that, and I got to be religious. I got to act religious, and then I'll be good. So he's writing to these people, and he shares, and he says in Romans 10:13-17, it says, for everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. But how can they call on him to save them unless they believe in him? And how can they believe in him if they have never heard about him? And how can they hear about him unless somebody tells them? And how will anyone go and tell them without being sent? That is why the scriptures say, how beautiful are the feet of the messengers who bring the good news. But not everyone welcomes the good news. For Isaiah the prophet said, Lord, who has believed our message? So faith comes from hearing, that is, hearing the good news about Christ. He says, you can hear all that you want. You can hear about the name of Jesus all that you want. You can sit here and watch a sermon. You can go online and find a clip. That you can do all of the religious rhetoric and you can feel like you're closer to God. But that's not how you achieve salvation. That you can try to act like it's all together. That you can put on the church face and try to be religious. He says, but that's not how this works. And so I think it's so interesting that when Paul's sharing this, he's talking to like almost two groups of people at one time, because he's talking to the ones that like have already in Rome have said yes to Jesus, that are serving him. And it's like, hey, like listen, like beautiful are the feet of those that share the gospel, that share what Christ has already done in his life. And so he's like, hey, you better speak up. But also those that have heard the good news and think that they're still good even though they have not responded to the good news. He's saying, listen, you have to respond to this or you're not good. You have not been set free yet, even though you might feel like you are. And so he is straight up saying, he's like, hey, listen, they need to know the good news. You have it. You need to share it with them and you need to respond to it. He's literally like, I'm laying it out for you as simplistic as I possibly can. You have the good news. You better share it. You don't have the actual good news. You just have some news that's outdated and has nothing to do with this thing. You need to look at them and listen to what they do and then respond to it. He's straight up saying that. And so it's a beautiful, it's just a beautiful letter because he says straight up to Rome, he's like, listen, like my prayer is that you would not just know the name Jesus. My prayer is that you would not just hear about Jesus and what he has done and what he could do for you, yet never experience his love. That yes, you could talk about him, and yes, you can be a part of a moment with him, and you can do all this stuff with other Christians, this and that. But do you know him? Do you have this relationship? Have you solely 100% said, I am sold out to the gospel of Jesus Christ? That what he did upon the cross, that is my salvation. That is what sets me free. Nothing that I can try to do. No religious rhetoric. Nothing that I can try to transpose on my own. No, what Jesus has done. He's like, I need you to shift your focus. I need you to stop looking at this through that lens. You need to look at it through the lens that Jesus is the only thing that will get me saved. That Jesus is my only salvation. And then he goes on in 2 Corinthians, he's writing to the church of Corinth, and it's just so interesting that Paul didn't hold back. I think it's so crazy that Paul was just like straight up like listen, like y'all suck, okay? Here. Like, you know, have you ever seen the memes that's like, it's like if Paul was still alive, America would be getting a letter. Straight up. And it would start with like, y'all stink, you know, like something like that. But it's the truth though. But he writes to so many different areas and so many different times. And what I love is like he's in prison majority of the time that he's writing these letters, and majority of the New Testament is the letters that he wrote to these different churches. And he was a person that just, he gave everything to God, and it landed him in jail. And he was still going, all right, listen, like I still have hope. I still have good things. God is still doing a work in and through my life. So he's writing these letters, and it's so funny that God used those letters to be the thing that set so many other people free. And it's like you think that the small little things that you're doing aren't enough, but literally the letters that he was writing was something that lives beyond his lifetime. So the things that you're doing now you might not see in your life, but you will see the fruit when you go into glory someday. You will see that the small little things actually do matter. And so Paul is the prime example of that. But also, Paul's writing these letters to places where he straight up murdered people there. He's like, oh yeah, remember when I came into your city and I murdered a lot of people that served, Christianity? Well, I have a letter for you. Like, what? But this guy was bold. The guy who had every right to accept Jesus, have an encounter with him, and then just hide and say, I'm good, I have hope. Thank you for setting me free, God. Thank you for showing me this grace. Now I'm going to go hide because of all the things that I've done. There's no way I can be used. No. He responded and said, I don't care how I acted or what I did before I knew you, because now I have hope. And hope is beating out of my chest. And I have to do something about this. And so in 2 Corinthians 4, 5 through 6, he says, remember our message is not about ourselves. We're proclaiming Jesus Christ, the Master. All we are is messengers, errand runners from Jesus for you. It started when God said, light up the darkness, and our lives filled up with light when we saw and understood God in the face of Christ, all bright and beautiful. You may have come to Jesus because you needed saved and set free, like majority of us did, but now that you have been set free and saved, he says, now I have a task for you. That I have a calling and a destiny that is placed on your life, and so you can deny it, you can walk away from it, you have the choice to step into it or not, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to give up on you. It doesn't mean that I still won't use you. It doesn't mean that I still won't be waiting for you to say, okay, I'm ready to do this. But he has given you a calling. And it is rather simple. The calling on your life is not to go get that job. The calling on your life is not to have an amazing family. The call on your life is not to have 2.5 kids and a car in the garage and another car and then maybe an extra car or a nice little beach house up in Erie. That's something Pittsburgh people say. Retire in Florida someday. No, the calling on your life is to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. The calling on your life. So everything that you do is positioned to be able to do that. How can I show the world that is lost and is broken that there is hope? And so in my family, man, I will raise my kids in the ways of the Lord, that I will take care of my wife, that I will lead her well as the husband and as the lead of my house. Why? Because that shows the gospel. That shows the love of Jesus into a dying world. By me raising up my kids to say yes to the name of Jesus and taking care of my wife and leading her in the way that I can. But the gospel is above. The gospel is everything. What he has done for us, that is the story of humanity, a lost humanity that needs hope and restoration. That is what this is. But that verse where it just says, light up the darkness. Light up the darkness. That doesn't mean that you've been plucked out of darkness and have been given a great light, and now you just need to maybe let it flicker once in a while. You know, when you start you can obviously tell that I have not used a lighter too often. But when you spark a little lighter, it's not a little spark. It's not just a little flame and stuff like that. It's not just, or some of us, we just hide it. You know, we're like, oh no, I don't want anybody. I love Jesus and I this and that, but I don't want anybody else to really know that because, you never know and this and this and that. Okay, I just want, no. It is meant to be a fire. I'm talking like a redneck bonfire, all right? I'm from Beaver County, and we know how to do some bonfires, okay? I'm talking you steal a bunch of, what are they called? Black wood things? Pallets. Wood pallets. You get 60 of those bad boys and send it up like the Tower of Babel and then light that bad boy on fire. That's what I'm talking about, okay? Y'all don't know. You don't know nothing about Beaver County. You know what I'm saying? And so that's straight. That's what it is. It is called to be something that you see. It is called to be something that ends up on KDKA News. That's what we're called to be. We're called to be a light in this world. We are called to be a light that others, they can't even notice the darkness around them when they're around you because you have so much light coming off you. That there's nothing but hope when they're around you, that they feel this sense of what is different about them. That's what it starts to look like. When you start to give everything and you say, God, I want all of you and I love you and I trust you, you start to get that light more brighter than you've ever experienced. And what happens is people just start to notice that. And that's what this verse is saying. Listen, you don't have a fire that has been set inside of you so that you can extinguish it, so that you could hide it, so that you could try to act like it's not there. No, this has to be the life. The fullness of your world, the hope that Jesus has given you needs to be the thing that you have. It is not wimpy. It is not small. It is everything. Because today, and hear me, you need to know this, a genuine encounter with a radical God demands a radical response. It demands it. If he is who he says he is, it demands it. And my whole life, my whole hope, my whole what I want, my ambitions, all of this, it has to be him. Because if I have had a genuine encounter with a radical God, it demands a radical response. That it can't just be something small, it can't just be something minuscule. If he is really who he says he is, then my life needs to look dramatically different. And so when we talk about beautiful feet, the ones that share the good news, the ones that share the gospel of Jesus. In verse 13 through 15, it says, we're not keeping this quiet. Not on your life. Just like the psalmist who wrote, I believed it, so I said it. We say what we believe. I believe it, so I said it. Translation. Josh Clear translation. I knew it was true, so I didn't shut my mouth. I couldn't shut up. You couldn't get me to shut up. He's way too good. I can't stop. He's been way too good in my life. Even when I fail, he's still way too good. Even when others have looked at me and gone, hey, you look like this, you act like that, you come off to me like you're a failure, you come off like this, or some that know my past, well, you were this way, well, you said that, or you acted this way, or you treated this woman like this, or you did that. Despite all of those things, I believed it, so I spoke. But you have failure. I believed it, so I spoke. You killed Christians, Paul. I believed it, so I spoke. It doesn't matter what others say. It doesn't matter what others think. I've had a radical encounter. I've had a genuine encounter with a radical God, so I have to have a radical response. I have to go out of my way to do this thing. Do not shut up about it. In verse 15, it goes on and says, and what we believe is that the one who was raised up, the Master Jesus, will just as certainly raise us up with you alive. Every detail works to your advantage and to God's glory. More and more grace, more and more people, more and more praise. He says it's never ending. It's more and more. It's continual. It keeps going. It never stops. What's so cool is when we position our lives toward Jesus and we really go, and when we put our hands out, not like this, holding on to what we know, but when we put our hands out with just like everything that I have is yours, when I put my hand out like this, my life starts to look dramatically different. That the people around me start to look at me completely different. That through him I conquer sin. That through him I have peace. That through him I have more and more glory, more and more hope. I receive more and more grace. That I know his knowledge on a deeper level. That I experience his love. That literally when I just have an open hand that says, God, I want more that you have. I have more that I know that is available and I want all that it is. That's what starts to happen. I start to look and act and be more like Jesus. And when you're acting like Jesus, the world goes, that's different. What is it? What got you so different? Why are you acting like this? Why, when this happens, everyone else's response is this way? Why do you respond like that? I believe that our life is meant to be different. So when we win, he wins. And when he wins, we win. It's beautiful. And so the question here that some of us in the back of our minds are thinking is, well, that works for you. You're a pastor. Of course your life is to share the gospel. Like I work. I got kids, I got bills, I got stuff, and like this might sound minuscule today, but this is actually really big in our minds. Okay, I know I'm speaking to you today. To share the gospel, it seems like, especially in 2023, that this just complicates my life. Right? Isn't that some of our initial response? That like in this world right now, to be a Christian, it seems a little bit scary. It seems like that. Or some of us see some of the Christians that are out there acting quote unquote Christian, and you're like, I don't want to be like that. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, what does it look like for us to do that? And I know a lot of us, the tangible is like, I can't do that. Like, Josh, that might work for you as a pastor, but that doesn't work for me in my everyday life. Like, I got this going on. I have so much going on in my life that things are not as easy as you make it out to be on Sunday. That I come into this room and I feel full of hope, but then I leave and I feel like I'm back to real life. And so you might make it sound like it's so easy, Josh, but it's actually not that easy. Like, am I saying something to you today? Like, I know that we feel this way. That like some of us feel like I'm barely staying afloat, and you're telling me I need to share the gospel. You know what I mean? Like, I need to go out and to do this. But I'm not even going to respond to that. I'm going to respond to the way that Paul responded. And I want to preface to you that the letter that he was writing to the church of Corinth was to those that were getting murdered for their faith. That were getting pulled out by their hair, that were literally getting burned at stakes, that were literally being put on upside down crosses, that were literally being placed into multiple holes and just killed on the spot. Like literally, this is who he's writing to. When I hear that, immediately I go, my problems mean nothing. My problems mean nothing compared to this. But my response to you that says my life is complicated, I got too much going on, it sounds easy on Sunday, but Monday it feels a lot harder, that I got my job, I got my family, I got my work, I got my this. Well, let me respond to you the way that Paul responds to those that are getting murdered for their faith. So we're not giving up. How could we? Even though on the outside it often looks like things are falling apart on us, on the inside where God is making new life, not a day goes by without his unfolding grace. These hard times are small potatoes compared to the coming good times. The lavish celebration that is prepared for us. There's far more here than meets the eye. The things we see now are here today, then gone tomorrow. But the things we can't see now, they will last forever. I got a question for you today. Do you have eternity on the brain? Do you have forever on your heart? Are you just thinking how you're going to get through 2023? Or are you thinking about eternity? Are you thinking about what forever may be in your life? Or are you thinking, what is my 401k going to look like next year? I'm not belittling those things. I'm just saying that, hey, there's something at play here. There's something more at work that is going on. That Paul is so clear that, yes, what is here today will be gone tomorrow, but this is eternal. This is forever. That on the grand scheme of things, this is your eternity, and this is what your time on earth looks like. But yet we make this the whole point of this. So interesting. Do you have eternity on the brain, forever in your heart? Ben, you can start to make your way up here. So we believe. Like when I ask that question, like, do you have eternity on your heart? Do you have, do you have eternity on your heart? Do you have forever on your mind, forever in your heart, and eternity on your mind? When we talk about that, I really, truly believe, and this is something I want to help us walk through today, that I really, truly believe that, yes, caring for people, loving on people, going out of our way for people, like looking like Jesus, acting like Jesus, praying for people, like those types of things are great and amazing, and they really help people get closer to Jesus and experience his love. So those are tangibles that we talk about. But if I'm honest with you today, I believe that one of the number one things still to this day to be able to reach people with the gospel is Sunday morning. That I really believe that creating a house of hope, that I really believe that creating a place where people can come and can lay down all of their issues and all of their failures and literally just adhere and see what God has for them, I believe that that is one of the greatest ways to be able to do this. And so literally, amazing pastor, a friend of mine said this, said, build a church service that you can invite all of your friends to. That's what me and my wife did. We really believed that, like, man, it was hard to reach me, if I'm honest with you. Like, it was hard for somebody to try to hone me in. I came from a very, very, very poor background. I had two 18-year-olds that made a mistake, birthed me. I lived in a trailer court until the age 9. And I'm not saying this to whatever. I'm just saying, like, this was the lifestyle that I had. I had 2 combined incomes that barely put food on the table. I remember having the same pair of shoes for years and years and years. I remember there was times during the winter when all I had was sandals to be able to do it. I believe that there's a lot in me based on the outside that I wasn't destined for good. I didn't feel like that there was hope that was available for me. But I still met him. That he met me. And the thing is it was services, it was church buildings, it was, for me, it was the harvest party. The Hallelujah harvest party. In a fire hall in Elwood City. That my mom took me to because for some reason she was religious enough to not want me to trick or treat, but had nothing to do with church. But she took me to this place, and I felt loved, I felt cared for, I felt seen, I felt known. I felt like somebody actually cared. It's an extension of the church. The church made the decision to say, hey, we want to give some kids some candy, and we want to have some fun games with them, and we want to share with them the gospel. And that's what started the wheels churning at such a young age for me. And if it wasn't for that, my whole family wouldn't know Jesus. If it wasn't for that, I don't think my dad would have stepped in, accepted Jesus, my mom accepting Jesus, my friends, my family, those around me. I don't think my life would have looked, I don't think I'd be alive. Because of all this stuff I was surrounded, drugs, alcohol, I don't think that I ever had a chance. But he met me. And he met me because some church in Elwood City said, let's do a harvest party. So the things that you might think are not a big deal, I don't need to serve at Lightning on Sunday because they got enough people there. I don't need to come to church every week because it's okay. No. If this is one of the greatest tools to be able to reach the lost, then why aren't we giving everything to it? It's what I believe in. I believe this is the gospel. I believe what Jesus has done is so important in my life that I give everything to it. I want to share that verse one last time. How beautiful are the feet of the messengers who bring the good news. How beautiful are the feet of the messengers who bring the good news. So come on, let's stand to our feet. I want to end here because I want you to know this fact. That when Paul said never give up, that he meant it. That he said that no matter what may come, no matter what's overwhelming, no matter what you might think is more powerful or what you think is too much for you, he says, no, still never give up. If we got hope, then we don't shut up about it. If we have the joy that's unspeakable, then we live a joyous life. That our life has to look dramatically different. And so if he really has no rival, then we don't put anything else above him. So come on, let's sing this out.